Christmas of 2023, I can still close my eyes and smell the pine needles and the roasting turkey. It was the last time my family was truly whole, the last time I felt like I knew exactly who I was and where I belonged. It sounds dramatic, like the opening line of a bad novel, but looking back, I can pinpoint the exact second our lives fractured. It wasn't a car crash. It wasn't a sudden diagnosis. It was a small, colorful cardboard box wrapped in green, festive paper, sitting innocently under the tree. A gift that cost me maybe $90 on a Black Friday sale, but ended up costing me my entire family history, my name, and my peace of mind. You have to understand something about the man I call my dad, Robert. He wasn't just proud of his heritage, he was defined by it. He built his entire identity around being Italian-American. He loved to tell stories about his grandfather, Nonno Giuseppe, who came over from Sicily in 1920 with nothing but a suitcase and a dream. Dad was the loudest guy in the room, always laughing, always gesturing with his hands. Every Sunday, without fail, the house smelled like garlic, basil, and slow-cooked pork. He used to joke that marinara sauce ran through our veins instead of blood. He had the Italian flag hanging in the garage. He knew every line from The Godfather, and he made sure I knew it too. Being a Miller meant something specific. It meant loyalty. It meant loud dinners. And it meant blood was thicker than water. So that year, I thought I had the absolute perfect gift. I bought 2 Ancestry DNA kits, one for him and one for me. I had this vision in my head, us sitting at the kitchen table with a map spread out, laughing about how much Italian we really had, maybe finding some distant cousins in Rome or Palermo we could visit one day. I thought I was giving him a piece of his history. I thought I was honoring him. I wrapped them carefully, imagining the look on his face. I remember the moment he opened it. It was around 10 a.m. He was sitting in his favorite worn-out leather armchair by the fireplace, wearing that ugly knitted sweater he loves. He tore off the paper, saw the logo on the box, and his face lit up. He smiled, a big, genuine, toothy smile. He held it up like a trophy. He said, "Look at this. Finally, scientific proof that I'm 100% purebred. I'm going to frame the results and hang them in the office so the guys at work finally believe me." He was so happy. But then, purely by chance, I glanced at my mother. She wasn't smiling. She was standing in the doorway of the kitchen, holding a dish towel, half dried. Her face had gone completely pale, like ghost white. Her hands were trembling slightly, clutching the fabric so hard her knuckles were white. She walked over quickly, her movements stiff and jerky. She said, "Oh, honey, why do you need that? You know who you are. We don't need a computer to tell us we're family. Besides, those companies, they aren't safe. They sell your data to the government or insurance companies or hackers. We should return it. Let's get you that espresso machine you wanted instead. That's more useful, right? You love coffee." Her reaction was odd. My mom was usually the calm one. She was skeptical of technology, sure. She still refused to use online banking. But this felt different. It felt desperate. But I just thought she was being a paranoid boomer. I laughed it off. I said, "Come on, Mom, take the tinfoil hat off. It's just for fun. Don't be a buzzkill. Everyone is doing it." She didn't argue further. She just shut down. For the rest of Christmas dinner, she was quiet. She barely touched her food. She kept glancing at the box sitting on the coffee table like it was a ticking bomb waiting to explode. I didn't know it then, but she was calculating. She was terrified. We spit in the tubes, sealed them up in the little biohazard bags, and mailed them off the next morning. Life went on. January passed in a blur of work and snow. Then February. I honestly forgot about the test. Work was stressful. I had my own life, my own problems. Until 6 weeks later. It was a Tuesday, a rainy, gray Tuesday. I was at work, sitting in a boring budget meeting, zoning out, when my phone buzzed in my pocket. A simple email notification. "Your DNA results are ready." I hid my phone under the conference table. I was excited, a little bored with the meeting, just looking for a distraction. I opened the app, I navigated to the dashboard, I scrolled down to the ethnicity estimate, expecting to see a big, solid blue circle for Southern Europe or Italy. but it wasn't there. I blinked. I rubbed my eyes. I refreshed the page thinking the Wi-Fi was bad. The circle wasn't blue, it was green and red. 50% Great Britain and Ireland, 40% Eastern Europe, 10% Scandinavian. Italian? 0%. Not even a trace, not even noise. I stared at my phone, completely bewildered. I thought, okay, this must be a glitch. Maybe the sample got contaminated. Or maybe Dad's family stories were just myths. Maybe Nano Giuseppe was actually Austrian or adopted. I tried to rationalize it. I tried to make the math work in my head. Then my finger hovered over the tab that says DNA relatives. You know how it works. It lists people who share your DNA in their database, sorted by closeness. At the very top, logically, it should have said, Robert Miller, father. It didn't. The first name on the list was a stranger, a user named Michael K88. Relationship, parent. Shared DNA, 49.6%. My stomach dropped. It felt like the floor had vanished beneath my chair. My heart started hammering against my ribs so hard I could hear it in my ears. I felt dizzy. I clicked on Michael's profile. No photo, just a generic avatar. Location, Dayton, Ohio. I searched for my dad's name in the list. I scrolled down and down and down. I checked second cousins, third cousins. He wasn't there. According to this app, the man who raised me, the man who taught me to fish, the man who sat in the front row at my graduation, was a total stranger to my biology. I left the meeting. I didn't even excuse myself. I just walked out. I felt like I was in a dream. I got in my car and drove to my parents' house. I didn't call. I couldn't trust my voice. My hands were shaking so bad I almost hit the curb twice. When I walked into the house, it was quiet. The TV wasn't on. My dad was sitting at the kitchen table. His laptop was open. The DNA kit box was sitting next to him, torn open. He wasn't crying. He was just staring at the screen, motionless. He looked deflated. He looked 10 years older than he had that morning. "Dad?" I whispered, my voice trembling. He looked up at me. His eyes were red, rimmed with dark circles. He didn't say hello. He didn't smile. He just turned the laptop around to face me. His results were on the screen. 98% Southern European. Sicily, Calabria, Naples. He was exactly who he said he was. He was the Italian he always claimed to be. But under the family tab, I wasn't listed as his son. "It says I have a niece in New Jersey," he said, his voice cracking, barely a whisper, "and some cousins in New York. But you're not there." He looked at me, his eyes pleading, desperate for an explanation that didn't exist. "Is this a joke, son? Did you switch the samples? Did you buy a prank kit to mess with the old man?" That's when my mother walked in from the garden. She was holding a basket of laundry. She stopped dead when she saw us looking at the screen. She dropped the basket. Socks and shirts spilled everywhere. She didn't even try to pick them up. She didn't try to lie. She just shut down. She leaned against the doorframe and covered her face with her hands. The silence in that kitchen was heavy, suffocating, violent. My dad stood up, knocking his heavy wooden chair over with a crash. "Who is he?" he screamed. The vein in his neck was bulging. "Who is Michael?" My mom sank to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. "It was a mistake," she yelled through her tears. "It was 30 years ago. You were working in New York for 3 months. I was lonely. I felt abandoned. It meant nothing." And then the truth poured out, ugly, raw, and painful. She told us everything. She had a brief fling with a coworker named Michael while my dad was away on a long contract. It lasted 3 weeks. When my dad came back, they reconciled and life went back to normal. But she found out she was pregnant a few weeks later. She did the math. She realized the dates didn't quite line up with my dad's return. There was a chance it wasn't Robert's. But instead of telling the truth, she rolled the dice. She decided to protect herself. She let my dad believe I was his son. She let him sign the birth certificate. She let him name me after his grandfather. She let him build his whole life, his whole legacy, around a lie. For 30 years, she watched him hug me knowing the truth. She watched him teach me to shave, knowing the truth. My dad looked at her with pure hatred. I had never seen him look at her like that. It wasn't just anger, it was revulsion. He said, "You stole my life. You let me raise another man's son. You poured my heart into him, and you looked me in the eye every day and lied. You made me a fool in my own house." Then he turned and looked at me. That was the worst part. That was the moment that broke me. He didn't look at me with hate. He looked at me with distance, like I was a stranger. Like the 30 years of memories were being rewritten in his head, frame by frame. "I need to go," he said. He grabbed his keys. He didn't look back. He just walked out the door and drove away. That was 6 months ago. The divorce is final now. It was messy and bitter. The house, the one that always smelled like garlic and oregano, is sold. Strangers live there now. My dad, or Robert, he moved to a different state to be closer to his brother. We talk sometimes on the phone, but it's awkward. The warmth is gone. The easy laughter is gone. He tries, I know he tries, but I can feel the wall between us. Every time he looks at me, he sees the betrayal. He sees the physical proof of his wife's infidelity. He sees Michael's eyes, not his own. I haven't contacted Michael. I found him on Facebook. He's a dentist in Ohio. He looks like me. We have the same nose, the same chin, but he's a stranger. I don't feel a connection. I feel robbed. It's funny. People always say family is more than blood. They say DNA doesn't matter, it's about who raised you. And logically, I know that's true. Robert is my father. He's the only dad I've ever known. He healed my scraped knees and paid for my college. But psychologically, it destroys you. I look in the mirror now and I don't know who I'm looking at. I feel like an imposter in my own body. I feel like my entire existence is a fraud. I realized that secrets have a shelf life. You can bury them for 30 years, you can cover them with lies and smiles and Christmas dinners, but eventually they rot. And when they finally come to the surface, they poison everything around them. If you're thinking about buying a DNA kit for fun this Christmas, just remember, sometimes the questions you ask have answers you are not ready to hear. And sometimes ignorance really is bliss.